Alright, in this video I'm going to be taking this sculpture that I did of Mad-Eye Moody from the Harry Potter series, just how I imagined him, and I wanted to change this up a little bit. I'm actually going to be transforming this, or changing it into a sculpture of Jesus Christ. There's a couple reasons for that, we'll get into that, but first thing I'm going to do is just remove this eye, which is a different material. This eye was beeswax, which is the different color. And the rest of this is microcrystalline wax, which is what I've been sculpting this out of. It's a great wax for sculpting by hand, not super great for working with tools, and so probably most of this sculpture I'll try to do by hand for that reason. So I've been trying to be more consistent with putting out content, and that means that I try to, if I have an idea for a video, oh, I should do a video about this, or sculpting this, or talking about this, I try to be a little bit more responsive and actually do those videos. I've been actually trying to put out, a video per day. I don't know how long I'll be able to keep that up, because sometimes things just get in the way. And some videos you need more time for the sculpting part of it. For that part of the process, you just need additional time to work on things. I've been working on a stone sculpting course here and there. That'll start coming out in January. I'll start releasing the lessons for that, and those are sculptures that you have to work on for hours and hours and tens of hours, 20s, 100 hours plus sometimes for these larger sculptures, for these larger stone sculptures. So some things you just need more time to work on and develop, and some things you're able to do, like this study of just a sculpture I'd been thinking about for a while, because I read the Harry Potter books growing up, but then I wanted to, like one of the characters that really I didn't feel that the movie captured how I imagined him in the book was this Mad-Eye Moody character. And so being able to reimagine that and just have a fun sculpting session, I think this took an hour and a half to do a sculpture saying, this is kind of what I had in mind when I read the description, or when I remember reading the description when I was younger. And being able to just kind of have fun and put that into clay is one of the benefits of sculpting and learning sculpture. And art, sculpture, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and I love it kind of for its own sake. It's just a fun thing to do. But then at the same time, as an artist, you want to do something that's meaningful. You don't want to spend all of this time and energy creating works that ultimately are, what would you say, frivolous, or not really important. My mom likes the story of when I got my Eagle Scout. I did scouting back before it was lame and taken over by woke culture. It was actually part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had a pretty strong ongoing relationship with the Boy Scouts of America, and then that kind of fizzled out once. And that fizzled out once the organization was taken over by the woke stuff, and that went against, church teachings, mandating that. Oh, anyway, I guess that's neither here nor there. I guess that's a tangent. But anyway, what was I talking about? When I was doing scouting, I got my Eagle Scout back when it was cool, back before it became lame. My mom got me this sculpture of an eagle, like these ones that you get at the ceramic sculpture of an eagle. And my response was, well, you can't eat it. It won't keep you warm if you're cold. Or something along those lines, that I was kind of like, well, I guess I was kind of ungrateful. It's what it sounds like, that I was ungrateful. But I was just kind of like, well, it's like art, but what can I do with it? And I think that's a pretty common thing, especially in the culture I grew up in, kind of that Utah culture is kind of very pragmatic generally, pretty thrifty. That's one of the things for scouts. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, thrifty, cheerful, brave, clean, and reverent. Still remember that, I guess, apparently. Haven't thought about that for a while, but that's interesting how you remember some of those things that you memorize in scouts and other things. So I guess I kind of had that knee-jerk reaction of just not appreciating what is the utility of art. And that is, art is one of those things, I've said it many times, that it is difficult to monetize. It's difficult to monetize creativity. Same thing with like anything, being a YouTuber or whatever, because lots of people want to do it. They want to do it successfully. Lots of people would like to do something creative and be able to make money doing that, or have that be their main source of income. But the supply of people that want to do that overstrips the demand. There's not a huge demand of people, just lining up to pay artists for creating works of art. But there are a lot of artists that want to do it. So I want to do things that are meaningful, because I think that's one of the purposes of art, is to point us towards the transcendent, and by that I mean the things that go beyond matter, beyond the material substance. Because materially, there's no reason that this microcrystalline wax is any more valuable in this form of a person, or of a shaped by the artist into something that means something, that has some sort of meaning behind it. Like, why is this shape any more valuable than this shape? And so that's what I mean by transcendent, is there's something that transcends the material stuff itself, and that imbues the work with meaning. And so the creation of art, if you're an artist, you're creating something that points towards the supernatural. And by that I mean that which goes beyond the material nature stuff, essence of things. And whether you acknowledge it or not, I know sculptors that I follow that are, atheist, and they kind of, by definition, kind of that materialist worldview, that there is no necessary spiritual element to things, that basically if we can't see it or measure it through a science experiment, then it's not important, or it doesn't exist. But I think art itself goes against that, and we can kind of sense that there is something more to this life than just material things, that there's a meaning beyond that. So I wanted to create artworks that point towards something more. I think of a lot of art, if you look at like the superhero movies and comic stuff, these things that have become really popular, it's basically just going back to to like pantheistic, Greek and Roman deities. These superheroes basically become, these deities, or examples of, of how people ought to behave, how they ought to act. So they become a replacement for, I think, something deeper, for a deeper religious urge, a religious desire that we all have within us to be part of something beyond us, bigger than us, be part of something that is, more, that is either bigger or I guess just bigger, something that's bigger than ourselves. We want to be a part of that. And I think when we see in culture, when that natural religious instinct is pushed away from Christianity, as we've, at least in the U.S., as we've become less Christian nation and less likely to participate in traditional religious worldviews, well, then there's a surge in, paganism, and by paganism I mean non-Christian religions, non-biblical religions. And I think there's also just an increase in like actual insanity, insane beliefs. Like people think, oh, once we get rid of this silly Christianity, then everybody will become these like just logical robots, only guided by logic and reason. And then the next thing you know, we become a less Christian nation, and then all of a sudden men can become women. And doesn't seem like we moved in the direction of people becoming more reasonable and more guided by logic and reason. So fictional characters that are created and kind of advertised as fictional characters have, in a lot of ways, taken the place of that religion. They become idols in a way. And I don't want to be a part of creating idols. I don't think it's good. For one thing, one of the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, likeness of things on the earth below or in heaven above. Talking about creating things that replace that replace God, the God that we should worship, the true God, and Jesus Christ, who he sent, his Son Jesus Christ, Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost that make God. And so when we replace that, and somebody messaged me about that, like the interpretation of that, like how do I interpret that, considering I'm a sculptor, I make images of things, and people generally, because I like sculpting people. And so how do I circle that, or how do I respond to that? People say, oh, no graven images. I think Islam is very literal when it comes to that interpretation, that you're not supposed to sculpt anything that has a likeness of any person or animal or anything created by God, which is why their artwork is mostly patterns, different patterns that they, elaborate patterns and things, but not representational art generally, from what I understand. And I don't hold that view, because my interpretation is that really anything can become a graven image, or an image that replaces what we should be worshiping, that replaces God for us. Like basically anything that you set as the most important thing in your life above, that is God. That becomes your God functionally for you. This is a point that Jordan Peterson makes all the time, but it's just kind of obvious that whether that's, whatever you want to do, if you are your own God, you kind of worship yourself, and it's like whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, whatever makes me feel good. Or if it's, money or cars or wealth or fame, or, anything could take the place, could become that idol that moves us away from true religion, from worshiping what is good, true, and beautiful, and can be distorted. Now, I'm not saying that every person that likes comic books or something is worshiping that, but I do think that some people get to that stage where these characters have actually, where fictional characters have actually taken the place of kind of that religious instinct is channeled into comic books or video games, or something where they actually become obsessed with these things that are idols, or can become idols if that's how you use them, if that's their function for you, is like kind of the most important thing, or the thing that your life centers around, then that has become an idol for you. And Christianity has a way of taking things. There are people that say like, oh, lot of these religions that have become Christian, they started out as pagan religions. They'll say this about Christmas or whatever, and they were changed by Christianity. And while a lot of that just isn't true, but to the extent that it is true, maybe there are certain pagan, holidays or things that were taken over by Christianity. I think, that's one of the beautiful things about Christianity is it doesn't really tend to destroy things or destroy cultures. It just takes what the culture has and it adds to it something more, something more beautiful, more true. And I think that true religion, that's one of the ways that you can recognize true religion is that it creates beauty and enhances and like enriches life. This is, one of the things that Jesus said was talking about the fruits of people, or the product, what they bring forth into the world. He says, by their fruits ye shall know them. And so when it comes to judging a worldview or a religion, we just look, how does this, when you act this out in the world, how does it change the world? And to me, there's no question that when Christianity is practiced on an individual level and as a society, when they base their society on that and try to live according to Christian principles, that things become better, becomes more beautiful, becomes more peaceful. And when we reject those things, the opposite happens. When we reject Christian principles, and even atheists arguing online, one of their main attacks is that Christians aren't Christian enough. Like that atheists are more Christian than Christians. So that's how you know that something's true, is when even those that deny that it's true are using it as a measuring stick to judge how good a person is by how much they adhere to these principles, these Christian principles. So I do think that there is something in Christianity that we recognize as true and good and meaningful and beautiful. And that's something I want to be a part of representing and telling that story, especially around this time of year, Christmas, the Christmas season, the season of Christmas or the season of Christ. That's the reason for the season, as they say. So I think if I'm an artist, a Christian artist, somebody that believes that Jesus Christ was the Lord and Savior of the world, that he was born of the Virgin Mary, that he lived, that he died and was crucified and paid the price for our sins, and then was resurrected and became the Savior and Redeemer of the world. If I believe that, then I should make works of art that I would want to put up, that I would feel like, this does have a function in my life because it speaks to my religious worldview, what I view as those most essential, most important things, the transcendent things, the things that go beyond, material. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with doing sculptures of fictional characters. The only time that it becomes wrong is when it takes that place in our lives as the most important thing. And we kind of see this, those people that are obsessed with fictional things that we kind of see and have a sense of, there's something that's not ordered around. There's something out of order in their lives. There's something that has become, a lesser thing that they've put in the place of what should be held by a higher, more important deity, so to speak. And they've replaced it with something cheap and something that's manufactured and kind of fictional, and kind of this counterfeit religion. So I think that's That's what I'm trying to avoid, is becoming one of those artists that just makes videos or sculptures for, for clicks, for views, for shallow reasons. I think art should be more. It should be something that's actually points us to more. And so, just like how Christianity kind of transforms cultures and societies, I wanted to transform this sculpture into something that I would want to, make a mold and cast it and put it forth into the world as something that I created, something that I'm proud of, not something that I'm like, that's kind of I don't really want to be known for just being one of those artists that create things just that have no deeper meaning behind them. I think I'll need to reshape the eyes and things. One of my goals for this year was to do one great painting, because I used to, I like 2D art as well, and used to be more into painting. And so I've started a painting. It's large. It's 4 foot by 6 foot. I built it with, some 6x6s and 2x4s, and it's, this pretty substantial painting. It's actually in this room right now that I've been working on, and it's also of Christ. And it was a fun process. I took the reference photos myself, using myself as a reference. That's something that you have to do when you're a poor artist. Can't hire a model or anything. But there's a barn on the property where you do kind of have to stoop down to come out. The door is pretty narrow. And that, I think, is one of the things that they mentioned about Christ's tomb, is that it's, it's a small opening, and he stooped to come out or something. I heard something about that somewhere. So anyway, I thought, this barn on the property, or this door to this barn, this will work well for taking some photos. And so I just had a sheet, some white sheets that I used as drapery, and then went out and took some. And I really like how they turned out. I really like the feel. And so it was supposed to be Christ as he's just emerging from the tomb after the resurrection, and kind of looking up towards the sky, thinking about his return to God the Father, and that now kind of the work was done, or his work and the resurrection. So kind of this is supposed to be this happy, calm kind of things are okay. Things turned out okay, even though it seemed to have been a tragedy before, particularly for those of his followers, the disciples. And I mean, if you can imagine their predicament, they kind of put all their cards on this person that they thought was going to lead them to a new reality, a new world that was going to kind of take over and triumph as the Christ. And then, he's crucified in the most brutal manner, hung on a cross. So if you're the disciples, that's like, this was a tragedy. He was betrayed by one of us, and betrayed and crucified. And now what? So they went back to their fishing. But then the third day, he arose. That's really the miracle of it. Some people wonder why, typically, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they focus less on the crucifix and more on the risen Christ. I think even the logo for the church, or the symbol for the church, is Christ coming from the tomb. the Christus coming out of the tomb. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. That's like it wasn't the crucifixion. That wasn't the thing to be remembered. The thing to be remembered is that he is risen. Oh, got an alarm. There's somebody calling. Hey.
Hey, do you want us to pick you up so you can come to the gym with us?
I think I'm okay because I'm recording right now. I want to finish this video.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. So to me, that makes sense that we're focused on that he is risen. That is the miracle. So I wanted to do this painting of him, and I've started. It's still very rough, and so far I'm only using acrylic, like just house paints. When we moved into the house, there were some paints from I don't know what, but the previous owners did something with paints where there's quite a few paints down in the basement, and that's mostly what I've used for the project. I do have some oil paints, but I don't have a lot, and I don't want to use the oil paints yet because I'll run out quickly. It's a large painting, so I want to get like most of the painting done with just these house paints, which is kind of a new and a little bit difficult process. You know, they change color a little bit as they dry, which is what's nice about oils is they really stay a consistent color. So that'll be for the details. Don't like the feel at this point. Definitely still needs some work. The neck feels too thin. I do have, I have another Christ sculpture that I've done in the past. It's kind of Christ showing his hands. That one is over in the barn. I'm now in the home studio space just because the barn's so cold. We had some snowstorms and now the barn is really chilly. But I feel works of art that point to Christ. I'm also very, very pro-life. Really believe in the sanctity of human life, that every son or daughter, as soon as they come into existence, that they should be valued and that their dignity and worth should be recognized by society. And so I think I'd also like to do sculptures that relate to that pro-life message, that every son or daughter is valuable regardless of how old they are, their stage of development, their stage of life, or their location. That they should be valued and not discarded. And their lives should not be ended, certainly. That every child is a gift from God, as the scriptures say. So I'd like to do artworks that show that. Figurative works that celebrate family, faith. I think those are things that I would find to be more meaningful and worthwhile, worthy of creation. I'm wondering, actually, I might want to do as if he has like a robe over his head and shoulders, a garment, or just something covering. Let me see how that looks if we added that. Yeah, I think I like that idea. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. If I wanted it to be, maybe I'll need to take references and do some more. If I can't get it from imagination to a place where I feel good about it, I'll do that. But there is something enjoyable, especially with these depictions of Christ. You're able to kind of put in, well, kind of imagine what he looked like and try to create something that's interesting, beautiful. I still feel like maybe it's that the back is too, like the portrait is too large. I either need to shrink the portrait down or add more clay to the back. I have to decide what I want to do. I think I do want to just add more to the back, but that means I'm going to have to cut some more clay, which is kind of a pain with this clay because it's a little bit tough to cut. Oh, my back's been hurting. I worked like a few hours on the large painting, and I was probably hunched over, terrible posture for most of it. So now my back has been complaining. Ooh. Cut some of this clay. This isn't clay, this is wax. I'm going to cut some of this wax, microcrystalline wax. Victoria Brown is what this one is. Do that, and then we'll probably have to get some more, but brightly beams our Father's mercy from his lighthouse evermore. But to us he gives the keeping of the lights along the shore. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seaman you may rescue, you may save. Trim the feeble and my brother, some poor sailor tempest-tossed, trying now to find the harbor, in the darkness may be lost. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seaman you may rescue, you may save. Dark the night of sin has settled, loud the angry billows roar. Eager eyes are watching, longing for the lights along the shore. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the way. Some poor fainting, struggling seaman you may rescue, you may save. Kids really like that song right now. They've been singing that a lot. Best singer. I'm not the best singer, but I'm not AI. So got that going for me. That's about all I have going for me. Dark the night of sin has settled, loud the angry billows roar. Eager eyes are watching, longing for the lights along the shore. So I look at it from above, I see that there's some asymmetries that I want to deal with. One nostril is two, and then when I come back to the front, I have to deal with those issues. Some issues you just see better from a different perspective. Isn't that the case with life? Sometimes we just need a different perspective to see things clearly. Now I'm feeling like that nose is becoming too wide. So we just boop. Here I'm messing things up. Trying to decide if I want the mouth to be slightly open or not. Then just mess things up. Mess things up, fix things. Isn't that what life is about in sculpture? Messing things up and fixing things. I don't think I liked it open too much. So that means going and redoing the mouth. I think I'm liking that nose better though. There was the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abia, and his wife was Elizabeth of the daughters of Aaron. The two of them on righteousness built both of their lives thereon. And they had yet no children. Elizabeth was barren, and Zacharias served as priest, and both in years well stricken. While working in the temple, an angel appeared, and Zacharias standing back, that angel he then feared. The angel said, "Fear not, for thy prayer now shall be done. Elizabeth, who is thy wife, shall bear unto thee a son. And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and his name it shall be John." Then Zacharias answered, "My wife and I have been patient, but I am now well stricken in years, and my wife is frankly ancient." Then Gabriel the angel rebuked him, and then some. "I'm Gabriel that dwells with God, and thou shalt now be struck dumb. Thou shalt not speak a single word, and this be the reason. So dumb thou go until these words shall be filled in their season. So dumb thou go until these words shall be filled in their season." I'm working on rewriting some of the New Testament stories into songs. I've been thinking I'd like to do an entire play like Les Miserables or those types of musical plays with the New Testament turned into songs. So that's the I'm not that gifted when it comes to singing, but I do like some of the songs that I've been writing. I think if I'm able to do it justice, it could be a cool thing. And, a lot of people would probably, or there's a group or a percentage of people that would rather watch a play or something to that effect rather than open up the scriptures. Though opening up the scriptures, is a good thing to do. But I think making those stories, those biblical stories, as accessible as possible is a good thing. So, and it's been a fun challenge to take a story and then try to translate it into a song without losing the meaning or without interpreting too much or making it too derivative, to that it gets away from the message. You want to keep the message of what's happening. But it is a fun challenge to see if I can tell those stories, because I do like songs that tell a story. Another one that the kids like is the Weller Man. The boom, 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 boom. There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was a billy of tea. The winds blew up her about, it down, oh blow, my bully boys blow. That one. And I like songs that are telling a story. I think that those are really, I really enjoy those types of songs. And so to do something like that with the stories of the New Testament, I did that with the story, one of my favorite stories of a father that brings his son to Christ. The Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief is the name. I did a video of that on this channel. Lord, I believe. But it'd be fun to collaborate maybe with some people that are a little bit more musically talented than I am, to create a version of these songs that are more well done with, music accompaniment and all that jazz. And then I recently did the Prodigal Son, the parables. So I wanted to do a musical, a song with that one, the Prodigal Son. Then I also wrote an introduction to the parables for that. So the introduction, I imagine, like, you have to imagine that a big choir that's really talented is singing this, because it doesn't work otherwise. But there's a big choir. And then, before a parable, or before each of the parables, then they say, and now it's time for a parable from the very mouth of Jesus, from the mouth of Jesus, from the very mouth of Jesus. Truth that helps and frees us from the very mouth of Jesus. Let the story teach us from the very mouth of Jesus. Let the message reach us from the very mouth of Jesus. Truth that helps and frees us. Let the story teach us. Let the message reach us. And this is what he said. So I imagine like a big choir singing that before we get to the parable. And then the parable, I'll do as much as I can remember because I don't have it in front of me. And it's one of the recent ones, so I haven't memorized it. But then the parable, he said, a certain man had 2 sons. The younger one had his funds. And then Jesus starts singing. Said the younger to the father, give me what is mine. That portion of goods that falleth to me, the adventure of far country calleth to me. So the father divided among the 2 men all that he'd worked for up until then. And not many days after, the younger son went off to the far country where the money was spent. That younger son left with ravenous haste, and in riotous living his substance did waste. And when all of the money was swiftly spent down, a mighty famine arose in that town. So he worked then for a citizen of that country feeding swine, and he would have fain fill his belly in need with the husks for the pigs that they sent him to feed. And no one did give him no food on no shelf, and in this famished state he came to himself. Said, my father's servants have food and have bread, and I'm here afar off and perish instead. Well, I guess I should finish it since I started it. People will be curious, oh, how does it finish? And I haven't done a song yet, so this will be kind of like for those that actually watch this longer content, this will be a little something for you guys. Let me go grab that. Oh, here it is, right here on my desk. My father's servants have food and have bread, and I'm here afar off and perish instead. I'll say to him, I am not worthy, you see, so not son but hired servant now make me. I've sinned against heaven and sinned against thee, so to be called thy son I'm not worthy to be. And so he arose to return to that place, though it pained him to think of his father's stern face. Okay, and then go on to the next part. And so then he went to his father he came, still yet afar off, father called him his name. And to his surprise his father missed him, and ran and fell on his neck and he kissed him. I've sinned against heaven and sinned against thee. To be called thy son I'm not worthy to be. Father, I'm not worthy to be thy son, after all of the horrible things that I've done. Spoke his father to the servants, as he smiled at his son. Called the father, bring him the best robe in the land. Put shoes on his feet and a ring on his hand. Bring forth the fatted calf and then kill it. And bring him a cup and with drink now fill it. For this is my son who was lost and was dead, but now he is found and alive here instead. So let us rejoice, let us all make merry, as thy father, my son, you're forever to me. The elder son in the field drew nigh to the house. He heard the music and saw the dancing. He asked him, a servant, what meaneth this thing? He said to him, Master, thy brother is found. Your father received him home safe and sound. And the elder son was angry, and that elder brother was angry as sin. So he sat down and sighed and would not go in. So the father came out for his son to entreat, and next to his son he took him a seat. The elder son said, Have I not been that good, to serve thee, obey thee, and do as I should? All of these years with thee I did stand, and never did I transgress thy command. Yet thou never gavest this honor to me, that I with my friends might like this make merry. But as soon as thy youngest son with thee returned, thou forgot that thy money with harlots he burned. Spoke the father to the eldest, as he smiled at his son. He said to him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have, it is thine, don't you see? We rejoice that thy brother's life was turned around. He was dead, now alive, he was lost, and is found. He was dead, now alive, he was lost, and is found. So that is the story of the prodigal's son, as told in a song that I could see being in a play or something at some point. And it's kind of embarrassing. I'm not the best singer, and I'm not the best songwriter, probably. I mean, for all I know. But I enjoy these, and the melodies. I've always wondered, how do you think of a melody as something that was just beyond me? And I don't think I could think of a melody, but these melodies, they just kind of came to me. The one that I was just singing, I don't know, maybe I've heard them somewhere. Maybe they are derived from somewhere or something that I've heard. And the project actually started because, one thing, I decided I'm going to try not to use technology on Sundays. I'll have, the Sabbath, it should be different. Or Sundays, they should be different. They should be set apart a different day than the rest of the week. So I'll try not to use technology, be on screens that day. Other than calls to the family or things like that. And then I was complaining to my wife about we've got a new hymn book, which is kind of a silly thing to complain about. But one of the hymns, I was like, listen to this hymn. It's like the rhymes it's like rhyming the same words multiple times in the same hymn in different sentences. And I was just kind of complaining about that the wording of it seemed awkward and not very well done. So my wife was like, well, then just write your own hymn. I was like, fair enough. It's easy to be a critic, but it's hard to actually create. So I was like, all right, I'll write my own hymn. And then that is what started with the first one, which was the one that I did of the father who brings his son to Jesus to be healed. Maybe I'll do that one, share that one too. But I could just see a 2-hour play, or however long plays are, I don't know. Just telling the stories of Christ in this type of musical thing with a big orchestra, and maybe that's unrealistic. It's probably unrealistic how many people write stuff and then actually have it turn into something. But I figure, why not? Why not? So I started writing it. Man, that is tough, cutting this. So anyway, I'd be curious, what's the next parable or story from the New Testament that I should turn into a song? The other one I probably do remember, the Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief. That one starts, I am a father, my son is suffering, why do I bother? I can't protect him from this thing, it's as a spirit, possessing his small frame, and the others could not, so I've come here and sought a healing in thy name. Then Jesus turning, his eyes bore into me, my throat was burning. Could this man set us free? And then he answered, how long I suffer you, faithless generation? Well then bring me your son, I have this work to do. And so I hurried to bring him my poor son, my heart was worried. Could this change really be done? It seems so futile to bring him to this man, but the others who sought were then healed, were they not? Oh God, I hope he can. And as I brought him, he saw the Savior's face, that spirit fought him. His body writhing in that place, Christ asked me, Father, how long has this been so? His voice caring and mild, my response of a child, this is the life I know. Oft times it takes him, he can't control his frame, that spirit breaks him, throws himself into the flame or into waters. It wants him to destroy. If thou canst this thing do, help my son, save my son, help me too. O Jesus, save my boy. Christ said to me, believe it if you can, I'll set you free. I am the Son of Man, it overcame me. To hear it spoke so plain, I broke down, and I wept. Why my pride have I kept? I cried out this refrain, Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief, grant reprieve. I beg you for relief, oh, I'm trying to follow thy command, though my faith may be weak, yet sufficient to seek this wonder from thy hand. And then he did it. As others gathered round, I can't forget it. That foul spirit he did confound, said, I now charge thee. Thou spirit deaf and dumb, you'll come up out of him, and enter no more in, and out of him now come. That spirit cried, and rent my poor son sore, he almost died. But that spirit was now no more, I heard them whisper, is he dead, do you suppose? Jesus stretched out his hand, helped my son then to stand. Thank God my son arose. Lord, I believe, I've left my unbelief, you grant reprieve, and lead us to relief, and now I'm trying to follow thy commands, though my flesh is still weak, I'll continue to seek new wonders from thy hands. Lord, we believe, help thou our unbelief, grant us reprieve, and lead us to relief, oh, we're trying to follow thy commands, though our flesh may be weak, we'll continue to seek new wonders from thy hands. That was the first one that I wrote. I thought, I think it's a good song. I'm not the best at singing it, so I'm hoping that maybe I could have some covers done by some actually talented musicians and singers. Because I think it's a good, as far as the story and the wording, the poetry element of it, I feel pretty confident in. I feel like it's a good or a well-written song, but maybe I'm biased. But it's kind of embarrassing, this channel isn't really for, or it really hasn't been up to this point, me writing music or doing other things. And that's one of the things about a YouTube channel. They talk about audience capture, that when you do something, then you have to do more of just that thing, and the audience really doesn't like to see new stuff. And, if you do new stuff, then the videos won't perform well and all of that. And I'd say that's probably true, and maybe that's part of the reason that I don't, grow like crazy, is because my channel still is kind of, what would you say, diverse when it comes to, the things. I mean, there's a lot of sculpting stuff, but then I also talk about, politics and religion and other stuff from here, now and then. And people like a more focused channel. But I don't want to fall into that audience capture where I am limited in what I can say or do because I'm worried that I'm embarrassed, or I don't want to, or I'm worried that I won't get as many views as I want, or that I'll lose some followers or stuff. I figure this kind of stuff, just kind of doing things that I'm interested in, or singing these songs, this is the kind of stuff that if it makes you unfollow, then those are kind of the people that I'm not really too interested in being my followers. Like if you're the type of person that just unfollows for whatever, if you have there's one opinion that you disagree with, and so you unfollow a creator, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. So these, doing things where I talk about politics or where I talk about religion or whatever it is, just being honest, being a genuine person and saying my genuine thoughts, or things that I'm actually interested in and working on as an artist, it serves two purposes. One is to just kind of hone ideas and put them out there into the world, and hopefully at some point some of the things that I'm working on will take off. But you never know as an artist. Some things never take off, or they don't take off until you're long gone. A lot of the times with arts, sometimes your work doesn't become valuable until you're not here to see the fruits of that, which is just a reality of a lot of the visual arts. Which is fine, that's part of the eternal, or the longer lasting nature of the arts, is that some of your works can last beyond your lifetime, though I think that there are more transcendent things that'll last beyond my lifetime. My legacy isn't going to be my art in the end, it's going to be my family and my children. That's going to be my greatest legacy, and the thing that I'm the most, the thing that I've created that has brought the most good into the world is my children. I'm certain of that. And so out of all the creations that I'll do, nothing will compare to the value of my children. But after that, some of the people want to be remembered. They want to be part of something that lasts beyond them. And so maybe some of this will eventually be turned into something. And, these years of struggling as an artist and, trying to make ends meet and being canceled from, where I used to make a living, and now trying to do things on my own and trying to figure out that side of it. And all of this stuff adds together, and you don't know the end. It's like the apostles. They didn't know how it was going to turn out. And so it might turn out, I might have some sort of breakthrough or viral moment where things all of a sudden become smoother and income becomes easier and projects and collaborations become, they flow, or, I might struggle and then find something else to do with my time as a way to make a living and provide for my family if there's not a way to make this this kind of creativity profitable. So I'm open to whatever. I'm kind of in that stage where I got to figure it out, and so I've been trying to put out more content, be more consistent with putting out content, because if you're doing more, then you're experimenting faster, and you can see what works and what doesn't, and I think being more productive is a good thing anyway. So that's what I'm trying to do and be, and not self-censor. I really feel like an artist that self-censors their opinions or their worldview is doing a disservice to the world. That part of the reason that artists are important is their perspective on things, and they're trying to honestly look at the world and see things, whether it's beautiful things that you want to emphasize or things that are wrong that you want to point to and say, hey, this thing that's happening is not right. I think that's part of the job of the artist. So I definitely not into self-censoring. But when you don't self-censor, then the people that like what you have to say, they follow, and the people that don't, they unfollow, and it all, things work out, and people kind of weave themselves in or out of your audience, and that's just the reality of it. I think I'm liking more how this hood is coming along. I'd like to do this so that I could make a mold and cast it. And so I kind of have that in mind as the goal in the end. I don't know if I have enough silicone to do it. Well, maybe I'll make a 2-part mold. I probably have enough to do that. Yeah, I think I need to pull the front of this hoodie more, or this, I guess it's a hood, or what would you call it? It's like the drapery over the head, I guess maybe a shroud or something. Pull it more forward in space. I think it will look a little bit better. But it's all of these little decisions, trying to think about like the gesture of what's happening with the folds and things. Fabric's really difficult to invent, so ideally I really should have some reference images with the type of drapery that I'm doing, because it's not easy to invent convincingly. So I'll see if I need to change things. And I don't want it to feel like the hair. Like I want the hair to be a different element. And that's kind of tricky to differentiate between like the hair and then the fabric. Are you going to do that? I'll probably try to just do it with layers, or maybe bring the hair forward a little bit. Just have the fabric be more connected. But these are all just decisions and things that you have to think through and try to get working visually as you're doing something, especially if it's like this from imagination. I feel like, maybe this is like blowing back a little bit, like there's some wind or something that's pulling this back, and then maybe some of his hair coming down here to show that it's like a different thing. But if you're interested in learning more about my personal religious beliefs, there's a website, comingtochrist.org, I believe is the website for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So if you're curious what I believe, there's a lot more information there. It's good to learn about. Good to learn about different beliefs, and then better know ourselves. What do we believe about reality, about what's good and what's right, what's wrong, what's moral and what's immoral. I think those things are worth considering and thinking about and studying. Just trying to make it better with each piece of clay, or wax in this case. I always mix that up whenever I do wax. And the beard is, I don't want it to be super thick, but I don't want it to be like too short either. I think it's like a medium length. I don't want to exaggerate the separation in the beard too much either. Looking at it from above really helps to check if things are working from side to side. If there's any asymmetries, those are really hard to see when you're looking from the front, like if this part of the beard is coming forward too much or squished or whatever. Some of that is just easier to see from above. Easier to see with that perspective from above. I'm sure there's a spiritual analogy in there somewhere. And then I'll need to keep moving it over. And the face, I don't want it to be like emaciated, but I don't want it to be too thick either. I think just kind of healthy, with a fair amount of the bony structures showing. Just looking at it from below as well. I'll bring this beard down just a little bit farther because I feel like it's not quite thick enough. I'll pull away some clay from the neck, from where the pit of the neck should be. It's pretty much all I can use the tools for is removing clay, because like texturing, this sticks so much that it's not ideal to use tools to. But what I will do with the texture is probably I'll use some Vaseline or something and kind of wipe it over the surface of the sculpture. Maybe I'll take it outside just to cool off. And then that kind of gives it a shiny finish that I like. Yeah, this will definitely be one of the longer sessions. How long have I been going? Coming up on 2 hours of sculpting this. Or re-sculpting, I guess you could say. Man, it's really hard working on the eyes when tools are so sticky to this wax. It's one of the disadvantages of this type of wax, is that it's very difficult to work in these kind of detailed areas. As I'm thinking about that story of the prodigal son, some take that story as to mean that you can basically do whatever you want, and as long as you come back, everything's going to be okay. You'll have the same reward as the people that were righteous. Their whole lives are chose to be righteous. So why not go and have fun and have your, time with sinful behavior, and then just repent and come back, and then everything's basically the same. But if you look at the story, that's not exactly what happens. The elder son is upset that there's like this party, and he's never had a similar party, even though he's been faithful to the father and not disobedient and responsible. He's working in the fields. He's been there. And the father, points out to him that you've always been with me, you'll always be with me, and everything that I have is going to be yours. So even though the younger son came back, he spent his inheritance. He spent his wealth, and now the wealth of the father belongs to the son that was faithful. And so, maybe it's not a perfect allegory for what exactly is going to happen, but it certainly isn't the message of do whatever you want because Jesus loves you that, you hear sometimes. So, like, I can do whatever I want because Jesus loves me. It's like that's not exactly the message that Jesus was trying to get across in that one. I think it was more of pointing out how joyous it is when somebody returns home. Somebody comes back. But while in that same story also acknowledging that there was something that was lost. There was an inheritance that was lost, that was squandered, or maybe you'd say the time, that could have been spent doing profitable things and good things was spent doing things that brought him further from home, as far as his eternal home, if we're reading into the analogy, and that was wasted, that there was no getting back that time that was spent and gone. And even though it ended up okay in the end, the prodigal son ended up returning home, but it's still, there was something that was lost. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there for a little bit, and I'll let it sit, because sometimes you become blind to the mistakes or errors that there might be in the sculpture. I like it. I like what's happening with the hood and things. I like what's going on there, but I don't know if there are some things that might be off or need to be corrected that could be corrected. So I'll let it sit for a bit and then come back, and then I'd like to make a mold and cast this once I feel confident or comfortable with it, as a sculpture that people could get around Christmas time. If it's done by then, we'll see. Or just something to have and remember Christ. He went about doing good and serving others, and I think that in and of itself is worth remembering and emulating. And he is the reason for the season, as I've talked about. But I think this will be a fun sculpture, something that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed this time. I don't know about you. As I say to the 0% that are still watching at this point. Oh, there's my family home from the library, the gym coming in. I think just about there is where I'm going to end it for this one. Oops. Still maybe needs a little bit more work, so I'll say that it's not quite done, but I will finish it up with I talked about the Vaseline. So I like just a little bit of petroleum jelly Vaseline, and then just rub that over the surface, and you can see how it kind of gives a little bit of sheen to it. I like that. It looks almost like it's been bronzed, or it has some shine to it. So I think I'll do that before I mold it and cast it, just because I do like how that looks. But I'll do it right now for when I'm taking some photographs of it. It makes it feel more finished. All right, there we have it. That's what it's looking like at this point, and maybe I'll do a little bit more on it. Maybe I'll mold it and cast it, see what it looks like once it's finished. But I like what's happening so far. Definitely a worthwhile project that I've enjoyed. Kind of changing this from something trivial to something transcendent. But the trivial stuff is fun too. It's fun to do things that don't have much consequence to them sometimes. All right, I guess I should stop working if I said I was going to stop. Hey, Rachel. Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. Oh, come on. Bills, bills, bills. All right, I'm going to end it there for now.
Stop following